Hey, Casket here. Welcome to the shop. I'm doing a project, a barbecue cart for my 22.5-inch Weber Kettle. I'm going to show you how I'm building mine. I'm going to give you the measurements and the hardware that you need to do it. I was looking for a cart that wasn't really big and robust, and yet one that wasn't too small and flimsy. So I'll share with you how I'm doing mine. As you see here, the barbecue cart is actually inverted. The top of the cart is resting on the floor here. Make sure you screw and wood glue your joints together, and it's very wise to make sure from the very beginning that all your joints are square, so be sure to use a carpenter square or a speed square. Here's some measurements here, and there'll be other measurements deeper into the video if you decide to make this more elaborate like I did, which included building the cabinet and the doors. While we're poking around the shop, I thought I'd take a quick minute and show you one of my toys. This is a Stover gas engine. It's a 2 horsepower Type K hit and miss, and it's a 1927 model according to the serial number, and it was used in a cement mixer. I've had this engine well over 30 years, and I've had it to a lot of shows and festivals, and it's always been a great running engine, and it's getting time for a restore and a new paint job, so that's on the list of things to do. This next engine coming up, this is a 1924 Whitty. It's a 2 horsepower Model B. This is a throttle governor style, and I'm in the midst of restoring this one. So watch for a video in the near future on restoring antique engines. You can go ahead and pause the video here and take notes of the measurements if you need to. To create the hole in the top of the cart where I want the grill to sit, I took the lid of the kettle and I positioned it exactly where I wanted it to be, taking in consideration the structure below. Then I took a carpenter's pencil, and as you can see, I rested it against the lid of the kettle and simply traced all the way around it. This gave me approximately 1 inch gap. So with the table inverted, I'm going to make some braces to give some extra support underneath the hole where the grill is going to sit. So I cut some angled 2x4s. They fit in perfectly like that. So I'm going to install the wheels. When I had the cart upright, I put the wheel next to the leg, and I put this in, and I hit it to make the mark. And you can see, you got a mark right there. That's where I'm going to drill, and we'll do it for both sides. put a second nut on to lock it. There it is. Let me show you what I'm using to hold the kettle grill in place in the cart. I'm using 3" by 3/4 inch corner braces, or L brackets. Picked these up at Lowe's. Came with the screws, although I changed the screws out to use longer ones. But I've got 4, 2 on this side. And the way I've got it situated, you can see that the handle is just touching the surface of the top of the cart. And I've got 2 over on this side. So I'm using a 2x6 top. These actually work perfectly for height size once they're installed underneath. I actually tucked them under the brace and put the screw through. And then they had to be pulled out. They all had to be pulled out towards the center to adjust so that they'd fit under the lip of the kettle properly. In order to get the bracket to fit under the lip of your kettle grill, you're going to need to grind it down like I ground down this one here, so that it goes right up under that lip right there, as you can see. But you have to grind down this edge, and I'll show you how I did that. So once you grind it down, you can see that it'll fit right under the lip, and that's where you're going to want it. Then once you get them in, you're going to have to bend them inward to get them adjusted just right, so they'll all slide under the lip. And as you can see, we can lower those right in place, and you'll just have to adjust it to make sure it's right where you want it. Okay, I'm going to show you what I used for the handle for the cart. This is a 1/2 inch black pipe. It's 24 inches long. I'm using a 1/2 inch floor flange, a close 1/2 inch nipple, and a 1/2 inch elbow. And so basically, I'm just going to quickly show you how I'm going to do it. And then it's going to be screwed right to here as the handle. Okay, at this point of the project, we are installing the cabinet, which is taking up slightly less than half of the entire length of the cart. I'm using 1x4s, and I'll show you what I've got going inside here. So for the nailers, I just used some 1x. I actually ripped a 1x4, and I'm using that as the nailer that goes all the way around the bottom shelf, like so. And you can see I actually used a 1x as a spacer so I could get my exact measurements. And my uprights, the 1x4s, are attached with one screw at the top. And if you look here, I ripped a 2x4. Here's 1/2 of it here that I'm nailing each upright to. And the other is there under those boards that are already installed. I think one screw per board is plenty to keep it in place and hold it securely to the cart. Then what I'll do later towards the end of the project, I'm going to trim all that in so it doesn't look so unfinished. By the way, if you don't have any of these clamps, Harbor Freight sells them for next to nothing, a few bucks a piece, depending on the size, and they work great for holding your project. I like to pre-drill these boards because they tend to crack if you don't. So I position them where I want them with the clamps, pre-drill them, and then screw them in. Once the storage area is complete, then I'll install 1 or 2 shelves inside. Okay, let's fasten these uprights in the cabinet. Okay, so I'm installing the shelf in the cabinet. I'm using 1x that I ripped for the shelf to rest on here. And I split the difference between the top and the bottom, which was 22 inches. So 11 inches from the bottom will actually be the top of the shelf, which is going to go this way. So I got a 1x here, a 1x here, and I'm going to put one across the back. Be mindful of your screw lengths. This is 1.25 inches, and this is a 2-inch screw. I'm going to use the 2-inch on the end here to go through. You can see it'll go through the 2 1x's and into the 2x4. However, past this 2x4, from here to back there, you want to make sure that you use a shorter screw so you don't go through to the outside. And this is 1.25 inches, which has gone here, 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 and these 3 over there. Okay, there are the 3 shelf braces installed. Okay, the shelf is finished. So I'm going to trim the side of this barbecue cart, and to trim it I'm using a 1x4, and I actually ripped it so that it's 2.5 inches instead of 3.5 inches. And it's going to be fastened like so. Now if you find that some of your boards are uneven, you can get a belt sander and go over the high points. So once you get all your high points down, and you can attach that like so. I'll be using screws, not nails, because I don't want this to move and I don't want it to be pulled off. Okay, so the trim is on, and I said I'm going to screw it to the cart. I'm actually going to glue it and then screw it, but for right now I just used a nailer and tacked it to the side because I'm going to end up taking it off when I go to stain the whole cart. So most of the trim is going to come off for the staining process because I'm going to have two-tone stain. I'm going to have the dark stain on top, and I want to keep the pine a little bit lighter than the rest of the cart. Okay, next up we're going to put some doors on this cart. I'm going to show you how I'm doing that. I'm going with 2 doors since I have a large opening, which is 27 inches wide from the outside. I'm going to pull in a 1/2 inch on both sides, which will give me 26 inches across. I'm going to split that 26 inches into 2, which will give me 13. So both doors need to be 13 inches wide, and I have them laid out here. So each door will have actually 3 full 1x4s. I had to rip one to bring it into 13 inches. So putting these together will give me my 13 inches for both doors. I'm going to put 3 biscuits per joint. One at the top, one in the middle, one at the bottom. I'm going to do that for all of the joints all the way up. So I'm going to start by drawing a square line across. So I'll take the first board, and you can see that there's a line here. There's a line here on the tool. I'm going to line that up right with the line that I made here. And you can see it made the cut just like so. And then we'll put a biscuit in there, and we'll glue the 2 boards together after we hit all the joints. So now we're going to put the biscuits in, and we're going to glue them and clamp them. My next door neighbor, Doug, was gracious enough to loan me his biscuit cutter. But if you don't have a biscuit cutter, you can cut some 1x's, and you can cut them to fit the width of your door, and you can glue them in and glue your joints, put some pilot holes, and you can fasten the doors together with some 1x. One here and one up here would be sufficient. You just want to make sure that you don't position it where it's going to hit your shelf inside your cabinet. But if you don't have a biscuit cutter, you can do it this way as well. Okay, once these are all set, we're going to clamp these together. Clean up the excess glue. Now we'll let that dry. We're going to do the same for the next door. Okay, so the doors are all glued together. They're all glued and they're clamped down. Now I'm going to let these dry, and we're going to install these with some hinges on the opening there. Okay, so the doors have been drying for 5 days, and I'm going to remove the clamps. There it is, 13-inch door by 2 feet tall. I'll do a once over with the belt sander. Two doors. Let's mount them to the cart. For the hinges, I'm using 3-inch hinges that have a 1/4-inch radius, rounded corners. These were about $2.89 a piece at Lowe's. Comes with the screws and instructions. If you're not sure on how to install hinges, they're very simple. So that's the next step. I'm installing the hinges 2.5 inches from both ends, like so. So I'm going to measure 2.5. Now we'll install these to the door. If you want to take the time to chisel out the area for the hinge on both sides, you can do that. It's not a problem. I'm not going to do it this time because it's a barbecue cart and it's not a piece of furniture and it's not in my house. So if you want to, you can chisel out the hinge so it'll fit flush with the wood. Otherwise, it'll work perfectly fine this way. Put the other hinge on, and then we'll install it to the cart. So installing the doors to the cart using those 3-inch hinges, I installed this one here, and I took a 2x4 down here at the bottom with some clamps, and I clamped the 2x4 to the bottom rung, or the bottom 2x4 that's part of the cart, and I used that as my guide, and I placed the doors on that guide, made sure that I had the clearance that I was looking for, and then I pre-drilled my pilot holes for the hinges, and that's how I installed the doors. Okay, we can remove our clamps. And there the doors are. So the next step will be to trim the doors out like we did the side. Hey, you know, when the bottle opener is installed, it must be nearing the end of the project. The trim is on. I'll show you in just a moment. The bottle opener is installed so I can pop open a bottle of beer. The doors are trimmed out. As you can see, I'm going to put a couple handles on them. And some magnetic stops on the bottom. I got to show you the handles I'm going to put on the barbecue cart doors. Here they are. Actually, I come across them at Menards, and You'll see they'll fit the handle I have on the cart now. But these are rather expensive. If you can find some coupons, usually Menards mails their coupons out, but if you can find some coupons to shave a couple bucks off, it would be a good idea. These are $12.89 a piece, and they actually come with two different lengths of screws, which are both too short. So I ended up buying some 2-inch cabinet screws because I'm going through two 1-bys, the door and the trim. But yeah, here they are. They're pretty cool. They're made by Bellwith Products out of Granville, Michigan. So if you got a Menards in your area and you want to keep things in continuity, if you're using this kind of handle, then this might be what you're looking for. Installing the handles were fairly simple. First, find the exact center of your door between the bottom and the top. Mine is right here. I used a speed square and I drew a line across. These handles are 6 1/4 inches between screw holes. So once I found my center, I measured up 3 1/8, 3 1/8, and those are the holes, or the marks where I'm going to drill my holes. It's also important to make sure you find the exact center of your trim piece, which is this vertical line here. Hey, we finally made it. Let's take a look at the finished project. And there it is. Another outdoor cooking device added to my collection. You know, this was really a fun project, and you can stop any point of the way in this video once you get the basic frame up. And you know, you don't have to go too elaborate like we did here. But you know what? It ended up being a lot of fun, and I'm excited about those handles. Glad I found a matching set that goes with my cart handle there. But actually, it was really a lot of fun, and you know, one of the biggest things when you're starting a project like this, make sure everything's square. Glue all your joints, and making sure everything is square will save a lot of headaches later in the project. But this wasn't really anything too complicated, and you just take your time and just keep adding to it here and there. All right, let's take a look at the grill as it sets in the cart. And I haven't used it yet, but it's coming soon. As you can see, there's no play and there's no turning while it's resting on these brackets. Brackets are working great. I'm very happy with it, and I don't see an issue at all. One of the things I'm going to add to the cart is a bracket here, a wooden bracket to hold the lid like that. So I'm going to let this set through the winter, maybe about 3 or 4 months, and then when the weather breaks around May, I'm going to stain it. And if anybody has any suggestions or any advice, please leave comments below. I'm all ears, and I'd love to learn your ideas, hear your ideas, so let me know. I hope this video was helpful if you have plans on doing a project like this. If it was, please subscribe to my channel, hit the like button down below, And please leave comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts.